So, Charlotte, thank you very much for joining me for one of our first Marketing Showcase Insight session. And as I was just discussing with you, the idea of this really is to teach me a little bit more about marketing. You know, I'm really interested, but sometimes I only get a glance at a particular topic. So I want you to today talk to me about PR. And I want to know, has social media and digital marketing eradicated traditional PR? So before we dive into that, please introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about you and what's going on.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Nichols from Harvey Hugo. It's a PR and marketing company. We're based in the northeast of England, and we offer services such as public relations, social media and content marketing. And I'm here to educate Ashley all about PR and traditional PR and digital PR today.
No joking, I've put my spectacles on because I'm ready for like some intense learning time here. So I'm concentrating, Charlotte.
Good, excellent. Right, I'm ready for your first question.
Cool. So I thought the best place to start would be to look at, you know, we're going to try and put against new modern marketing against traditional PR, so new modern digital marketing against traditional PR. So let's look at what is traditional PR.
Okay, so PR is all about managing reputations. So it's called public relations, and there's a clue in both of those words. So it's about communicating your messages to the public, and to do that, you need to build relationships. In terms of traditional PR, before the internet, many moons ago, you might not even be able to remember that, Ashley.
Is that like literally predating me? But it's not
Yeah.
quite, I promise.
So essentially, one of the only ways to do that, if you think of it, you've got a business and you've got your public, one of the only ways to get that message to the public was to use the media, and traditional media at that. So that was magazines, newspapers, radio, TV. Obviously, you could put on events and press conferences, but everything was very much physical events. There was no such thing as Zoom back then. So yeah, it's all about, you know, PR sometimes sounds quite fancy, but it's all about communicating your messages to your public, to your target audience, with the aim of enhancing your reputation.
And if you look at PR plans 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I mean, what did they look like? What was a marketer kind of putting into their PR strategy?
Yeah, well, everything was a lot slower pace for a start. So obviously the internet was around, we were using email back then, but social media was very much in its infancy. You know, the big players probably hadn't taken off then, and even when they did, they weren't being used so much as a PR tool. It was more just about kind of friends connecting with each other. The business function came later, so everything was much more planned. You had to allow time for kind of the journalists to get releases, because you couldn't just put it out on social media. It was about creating press releases around kind of topics that satisfied the journalists' kind of aims as well. So you'd write the story, you'd email, before email, you'd post off your story. It seems unreal now. You'd email off your story to the journalists, because they get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. You have to pick up the phone, again, quite traditional, pick up the phone, give them a call, say, hey, I've sent you this amazing story, and kind of pitch it to them. Sometimes the pitching process comes before sending it, like, hey, I'm about to send you this story, you want to have a look at it. And then kind of waiting, then the ball's in their court, you've got to wait for the coverage to come. And then it involved literally buying all the newspapers, buying the magazines, and scrolling through them, turning the pages, having a good look for the story. It's quite time intensive. Obviously there's a lot of software and technology that's come out in the last 10-15 years, but before that it was a case of manually looking through things. Once you'd found the coverage, you'd quickly kind of take a photo, photocopy it. Obviously licensing and everything was all signed off, you've got all the right licenses, you'd send it to the client, and then it'd be like, oh my god, you know, we're in the newspaper. That's traditional.
Cool. Let's bring things more into the present day, and what modern, you know, the modern marketer would be looking at and what they have at their disposal. What does a modern day PR plan look like in comparison?
Yeah, well, there's just so many more opportunities now for PR. There's downsides to that as well, because, you know, there's so many opportunities for things to go wrong. Like, say if your website isn't looking that great, you've seen how the world reacts if you send out a tweet that's, you know, maybe has a spelling mistake or says something that's on PC, it can be so damaging to the brand. So, you know, we look at all those things. Firstly, it goes down to your website. You know, is that a good projection of your brand image? Is it enhancing your reputation? Does it have a portal where you can add news and blogs and share your stories out that way? Does it have social media links? Are you managing the social media accounts you have on there well? It can look terrible if you've got a social media account but just no activity on there. That could be more damaging. SEO is, that's almost like Google's form of PR. You have to be on that first page. You have to be have keywords in your content on your website, but also you have to be placing your stories on websites that are strong and that Google kind of thinks are credible. Blogs, it's kind of changed the whole multimedia side. It used to be just about writing, sending it to the media, yes, with a good photograph as well, but now it's about video, it's about infographics, it's about graphics, it's still about photography as well, but it's almost, the digital world's got a lot more vain and immediate. They want to see pictures, images, video, things that bring stories to life rather than just words.
Look, that is the perfect point to kind of come back to the question here and say, has social media and digital marketing eradicated traditional PR? And it almost, after this chat, to me seems like a totally stupid question, because it's all it's all one thing. You can't have one without the other, because they're so ingrained throughout the whole of marketing or the whole of business.
I do agree on the whole. I think if you're going to pick one, if the choice was, do I do traditional PR or digital PR? I'd probably say do digital PR, because for the reasons we've discussed, it's more accessible. You have more control. You probably have more skills for that area. If you can do both, definitely do both, because like you say, they all flow into each other. They're all kind of one of the same. So one thing I like to actually say is PR. Today, you've got to PR your PR. And by that, I mean, you've got to get traditional PR and then promote the traditional PR with the digital PR. So for example, say you get coverage in your local newspaper. It's brilliant coverage. That's so much more credible than social media saying you're great or someone tweeting you. It's got that credibility factor to it. So you've then got to maximize that on the digital channels. So then you kind of share, did you see us in this local newspaper today? Share it on social media, do a blog about it, do kind of a video about it. So that way it's kind of spreading the message. The thing that lets digital down is the credibility factor, because now everyone has a voice, everyone can share their news. And there's the whole kind of fake news thing that's arisen from that. So because of that, the traditional media is almost having a little surge back, because it's got that credibility factor. But in an ideal world, do both traditional and digital PR, and PR your PR.
Perfect. What a way to end. So Charlotte, thank you so much for spending 5 or 10 minutes. I feel like I have a much better understanding of PR. I'm sure we could sit here for hours and go on and kind of dive into the nitty gritty of it. And I'd encourage people, if they are looking to find out more about PR, Charlotte, you're a fantastic source of knowledge. Go on to the Harvey and Hugo website, talk to these guys. Charlotte, do you want to say anything about sort of how they can get in touch or what they should do?
Yes, you can get in touch traditionally via the phone. You can even post to us if you like, we are available on digital PR methods too. So you can, tweet us, LinkedIn message, but email's probably the best. info@harveyandhugo.com. And as you can see, I love talking about it. So you'll probably be begging me to shut up if you do call for any advice.
Don't be silly. That's exactly why I invited you on here. So I'll make sure all the links to Harvey and Hugo are on this post or wherever I end up putting this. So long as it's not in the bin, I'll make sure you're linked everywhere. And I'll also put a cheeky little plug in there. Charlotte's been one of the speakers at our Marketing Showcase online events in the past. We run free monthly online events for marketers, sharing lots of educational knowledge and of course linking you up with the best agencies and products that are out there. So please do check us out. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to say thank you very much again, Charlotte, and I hope to see you soon. All right.
Thank you. I hope to see you soon. And just to add, Ashley's events are amazing. So make sure you either visit them or exhibit there.
Don't. I'll blush. Don't. Cool. Thank you again.
No worries.